Before we bring Leroy in, I just want to remind everybody that you can win some signed Leroy Hoard memorabilia along with some signed mini helmets and footballs from Tim Couch and DeQuell Jackson. You have to subscribe to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show YouTube page. Head to wkyc.com/contest. There's a landing page to enter. You get a 3-pack of Browns Legends memorabilia. DeQuell, Leroy, Tim. You can't beat it. Perfect holiday present. And with that being said,
who we taking right now, Leroy or DeQuell in the Oklahoma drill?
let's ask Leroy. What's up, Leroy?
Ooh, wow, that's a good one.
Oh, I ain't folding to nobody. Well, I got something for you, Jay.
What do you got, bro?
Oh, man.
Hold on.
Woo.
Hold on, let me move.
Hold on,
Wow.
partner. Hold on, partner.
That's crazy.
I give you credit, Leroy.
You got to give him credit for
That's
that
nice,
shirt.
Leroy.
That is a good shirt.
But Leroy,
Yeah.
hold on,
Jay is
hold on, Leroy.
salty.
I have to defend. I have to defend our honor here, Leroy. I want you to get ready here now.
I expect nothing less.
Well, I was talking to somebody in the gym last night about this. Georgia don't even know what's about to hit them. On New Year's Eve, they getting done up.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, God, Brad, don't go there.
They getting done up.
Hey,
Trust me.
hey,
guess what?
let me explain something
Yes,
to you.
Take the
You know,
6.5
I'm coming to see you. I'm coming to see you.
Brad, let me say this. I think Ohio State has a better quarterback. I think they have the better skill players.
Line is not even close.
But Georgia is Michigan times 10 up front.
They are.
And
They're gonna
if
kill us.
if you wasn't tough enough to deal with Michigan,
Facts.
Good luck.
It's nothing.
That's all I'm gonna say.
I don't disagree with you, but the one thing that you're missing out on is the problem that you have encountered for yourself. You stuck that freaking flag in the ground. I'm coming to see you.
hey, that's all right.
Got to be Georgia first, though.
That's a necessary step. I'm coming to see you.
Hey, I'll
He said
be
that for
right
365 days and we
here.
did nothing.
I know. I'm hopeful.
I'll be right here. I ain't going nowhere.
Look,
That is some false confidence from Brad right now.
I know it is.
hey, you know how I
You
know,
keep
Leroy.
False bravado.
You keep looking at Michigan. You better worry about Georgia.
Yeah. By the way,
Don't worry about Michigan right now.
He's got
That's
the
true.
You can
scores of the
talk trash.
games on that stupid-ass sweatshirt.
That's how lame
After
they
the
are.
31st, Brad,
What's up?
after the 31st, then you can come holler at me.
All right.
And I'm going to
That's
be,
true.
we can go
that
back
will
and
be
forth.
amazing.
Oh, because you know that night
they
I'll be
play
on the
each
phone
other.
with you. I'll be texting you or calling you.
Yeah.
All right, Leroy.
I'll
All
be
right,
waiting.
Leroy.
I'll be waiting.
Wouldn't it be great if they did play each other again for the championship?
Yes.
I mean, that would just
I
be
would
love it.
unreal.
I
It
would
would be
love it.
unreal.
Yes. You know why? Because I got room for another.
Leroy.
I got room for another football right now here.
Well, hey, Brad, Leroy, okay, you got the last two. We got
Yeah.
sweatshirts filled with scores from the last 15 years. Filled.
That's true. You're 100% correct. I'm not. Look, I own it. I own it that we haven't done well against Ohio State. However, the last 2 years, y'all got to
ass
put on you.
kickings.
I really want to see this.
Fire Ryan Day.
Beat
I
down.
want to see this in the national championship so bad.
Oh, my God. yes.
Oh, my God.
If y'all can handle it, if
The
y'all
sports
can
world would stop.
handle y'all business, please, on both sides, so I can sit right here and enjoy the carnage.
Dude.
And usually,
Ooh, hey.
usually when Ohio State plays Michigan for the last, forever, however long, we only have a couple of days because it's always Thanksgiving weekend,
Yeah, I know.
and there's not a lot
Yeah.
of time to get the hype going. In this case,
Oh, my goodness.
it's going to be,
2
what, 10 days, 12 days, whatever it is? I mean, it's good.
Ooh,
Oh.
goodness.
Ooh.
I
That's
can't
gonna be
wait.
fun.
Ooh.
I can't wait. But
How worried
I heard
you-
you guys. I heard you
Right.
guys talking about the defensive coach or whatever.
Yeah, what do you make of those comments, Leroy?
did you hear the
Good
quote?
Lord.
I mean, yeah, I heard it. Look, sometimes you have to think about what you're gonna say and not go there. And here's why. I understand what he was trying to say.
Sure.
Right? But the problem is that if you're not a football guy, it sounds pretty damn ridiculous. Right? And here's why.
I think
And Brad, you alluded to this. If you lose a good player, that should increase the other team's chances of winning,
Right. That's right.
not make it harder for them.
Yes.
Now, if those other two guys had caught 100 and 130 yards, then you could come in as a man and come in and say, we wasn't letting Nick Chubb beat us. I mean, we wasn't letting Jamar Chase beat us. Right?
Right.
And you could live with that.
But their star beat you.
Right. I mean, 10 catches for 100 yards is not that big of a deal, to be honest with you.
If you do that for a season, you got 1,700 yards receiving. That's a
Yeah,
big
but
deal.
you also gonna have like 170 catches.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Sure.
So
I mean, he had
Jamar
15
Chase is a
targets,
big
Leroy.
Jamar Chase is a big play guy. If he hasn't really had, he really didn't have a lot of just huge plays.
Right, but he moved the sticks all day.
Right. Which guess what? If you playing Jamar Chase and all he doing is catching passes in front of you, you live with that. You can live with that. What you can't live with is him catching that 5-yard pass and going 80. That's where you got problems. So, but here's and defensively, I almost liked everything they were doing. They moved the D line around. They ran some games inside. They gave them some problems. But the penalties, man. The penalties. Like, we sitting here looking at how they did about if at the end of the day, you say, I'm gonna give Jamar Chase 10 catches for 119 yards, you can live with that. Right? But what you can't live with is on 4th down, get a chance to get good field position, and you give them the ball back. Okay? You're playing with fire. And that's what happened most of the time. The free first downs, all of the penalties that back you up offensively. And so when you look at the way the game played out, the schematics of it was fine. It was the generosity of your team to give them free yards that hurt you. And it's been a problem all year. And I don't know what you do about that. I was thinking, I told somebody today, I said, you know what? In all my years of playing football, all of them, I never had a holding penalty, never had a pass interference penalty, had one unsportsmanlike conduct, and I had 2 or 3 false starts.
Tell us about the
That's it.
Wait, we got to know about the unsportsmanlike conduct. What
who got
happened?
under
You
your-
remember
I'm
that
telling
play?
you. Okay.
Yeah.
And this, do I? Yeah. I only
Who
had
am I
one.
talking to?
So,
Yeah.
so we were playing Notre Dame at Michigan,
Yeah.
and quarterback threw a pick, and I want to say it's Mike Zordich.
Okay.
Right.
He caught it. It was batted up in there. He caught it. He started running, and I came all the way from the other side of the field, and he was celebrating and woo hoo hoo, and he got to the almost to the white, and I committed. And then he kind of jumped. He jumped out of bounds, and I'm like, oh no, I take this, and I just got him. Sorry, my bad.
He already committed.
Listen, I committed. I committed. Somebody was getting hit. I ran way over there and came and tried to do a good hustle play, and I get over there. I'm supposed to just stop? No.
You're getting your pound of flesh.
Leroy's still angry about that interception.
Yeah,
like
he
30.
wanted
Yeah.
How many years later? 35?
Yeah, it was a long time ago, but I remember it because it's my only one.
Yeah.
You know, put it this way. I've gone, and because when you get tackled, they try to intimidate you. They mush you. They, twist stuff and stuff like that. So one time I went to an official, and I said, hey, Mr. Official, here's what's happening. If you don't control it, I'm going to do what I got to do. Simple as that. I told him, I have every right to protect myself if you don't.
Wow.
So I've
What
gotten
happened?
into a couple of situations with that, a guy hit me. I was thinking of a preseason game. He hit me. I was like 5 yards out of bounds. Oh, it's go time. You ain't gonna hurt me like that. We didn't have plenty of time to play football. Football's over to the next play. And so we went at it, and they threw the flag on him. They ain't throwing no flag. And then I walked by the official. I said, I told you, I'm gonna do what I got to do.
Who was the player?
You ain't gonna, huh?
Do you remember who the other player
I
was?
don't even remember. I know it was a linebacker. And then after the game, because at the time Metcalf was playing with the Rams, and after the game, Metcalf came to me and said, my boy say sorry. And I said, well, you tell him come tell me yourself. We can talk about it. So we dapped up and we was good. Like I don't never hold, stuff that happens in a football game against a person, right? Because it's football. It's physical. You get mad. You got coaches yelling at you. You got stuff. Sometimes you just get frustrated. So I understand that. So I ain't going, so I didn't I just said, hey, I did what I had to do at that moment. We done. Game over.
Leroy,
we dapped up. We was good.
As a guy that played thousands of snaps and had incredible self-discipline to not do the things that were going to bring laundry out, you're watching this Browns team, and the penalties are everywhere. And DeQuell was on earlier this week. DeQuell made a great statement, I thought. He said, you can say a lot of things about a lot of the teams he played on, but when his Mangini Browns, he said, we're disciplined. He said, we didn't do that nonsense because he took it back to high school. You jump on a play, you're taking a lap around the field. He's like, I'm a grown-ass man taking a lap. And I asked him, did that work? And he said, hell yeah, it worked.
Yes,
so
it does.
What is going on with a team that is just absolutely not disciplined? You gave up a full-length football field in penalty yards. You're not going to win a game when you do that.
Not against a team like that.
Not against them. So what's your mindset? How did you keep – I know you're a smart player, but was it fear of the coach? What's missing on a team that doesn't have that discipline?
I tell you what drove me to play good football and play hard and do those things is that I never wanted to go in a huddle and have people look at me and go, "You're the reason why."
So peer pressure, really.
But it's that brethren that you have with the other guys on the team that you don't want to let them down. And so from that standpoint, and I'll tell you this. One of the reasons why I started playing was because of the guys in the huddle, not the coaches.
Right.
Because they said, hey, this guy plays hard. We need to run the ball with him. And Tony Jones and a couple of linemen went to Bill Belichick and actually told him that. And so I started playing. So imagine having that on you.
Yeah.
The guys that got you in the game.
Yeah.
And the guys that supported you and the guys
You're not going to let them down.
Correct.
Right. And this has been a consistent problem with the Browns with Stefanski.
But can I tell you why this is?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because Kevin Stefanski is a CEO. He is not an offensive coordinator. He is now the CEO.
Right.
So that means that in some way, shape, or form, his imprint should be on the whole team with how you do things, how you prepare for games, how you go about even your pregame warm-ups and stuff like that. That is your staple on this franchise.
Right.
So when you have guys that are talking about the Browns and they're talking about a bunch of circumstances surrounding the Browns that Kevin Stefanski has nothing to do with, that's nonsense. That's nonsense.
It all trickles back to him.
I'll tell you this. I used to always, I tell this to people all the time. Denny Green was a head coach. I don't know if he was an offensive coach or a defensive coach coming up. I just knew him as the head coach.
Wow.
And during the course of a game, he would hit a switch. He'd be listening to the defensive calls. Hit a switch, listen to the offensive calls. And periodically, I would hear him say, let's take a shot with Randy. Periodically, he would say, let's establish the run. Periodically, I would hear him say, hey, we ain't covering them. Let's get some more pressure.
That's what a head
And
coach
all of the
does.
coaches that worked beneath him
Had a reaction.
knew what that meant.
Right.
But he had an overall picture of how the game was going, what needed to be done, because he was the head coach.
Do you feel we have that here?
You can't do that with that sheet in your hand.
No, because I don't think Kevin Stefanski has enough of a grip on what's going on with the defense.
I would agree.
And
with
so I don't know if he can necessarily even at this point hit that switch and say, hey, let's do this or that. Now, I don't know. It could be happening.
Yeah, we don't
But
know.
I know if it was happening, that defensive back coach wouldn't have said what he said.
And you'd be seeing adjustments. When everybody in the building knows that one particular thing is killing you, it's up to the head coach to at least
To tell him, hey, what are we doing about this? Let's
like
get something on
Denny
somebody
might say.
on this.
Like Denny might
Right.
say, hey, guys,
Right.
enough with this run. Do what you need to do,
Right.
but button it up. Last night I was watching the Niners-Seahawks game,
Right.
and Kirk Herbstreit said something that was fascinating during the game. He said, they were talking about the San Francisco 49ers
Was it fascinating
defense,
because he went to Ohio State?
and he's a really smart guy.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. But keep going,
I
Jack.
love Kirk's insight. I love his insight. And he said something that
You know
really
what?
struck a chord with me, Leroy, because he said they were talking about the dominance of the 49ers defense. And he was talking about, of course they have good players. Of course they have a good scheme. But the thing that jumps off the tape when you watch the 49ers is that it appears every single player is running at 100% maximum motor on every play. And in the conversation with Al, he said, why is that happening? The reason that's happening is there are guys on that defense that will not tolerate anything less than that out of anybody. And I don't know who that guy is on the Browns.
I think for so long, you have a lot of players on this team that have been in survival mode.
Right.
And that is survive the coach, survive the ownership, survive the circumstances in which you play the game. I think if they get into a situation, and we've seen it, where they're having success and everybody gets comfortable and then they start doing it at a level that warrants excellence, you could see it. We go back a couple of years. We wasn't having these conversations about the defense. Wasn't having these conversations about, we're getting gashed by the defense. Because everybody knew, and credit to who's the defense coordinator at the
Joe
time?
Woods.
No, not Joe Woods.
Well,
Was it
2 years ago it was.
before that? When they
Greg
before
Williams.
they Greg Williams.
Yeah.
Greg Williams. If
He's
you
the name
ask
I keep
anybody,
hearing.
if you ask anybody that has played for Greg Williams, the one staple of what he does and how he does it is the mindset in which the guys go about doing their job. Right? There's a lot of coaches like that.
It's always been
It's
attached
like
to him. Always.
You can get away with not being good enough if you know what to do and how to do it. And if you don't do it that way, now we got to rely on your ability to be more talented than the other guys you're playing against.
Yeah.
And so I do believe that what has happened defensively is not necessarily schematic, but how they go about doing it. How they go about, because guess what? I hate to say this. Stopping the run is about attitude. Running the football is about attitude.
It is a mindset.
You're going to be confronted if you running the football by somebody. And that's why we all love Nick Chubb. And that's why we get mad when Kevin Stefanski doesn't commit to the run. For this reason. Yeah, they got too many guys to block. So what? You got Nick Chubb.
It
You
is
got
about
Kareem
will.
Hunt.
You're right.
Well, that's going to change. Hey, Leroy.
We've had time. Listen, we've had times where Bill Belichick was so sick of seeing 3 and outs, he would walk over to the offense and say, buckle your chin strap, we running the ball. Because one of the things running the ball does is it gives your damn defense a break. And as a defensive coach, he looking at his defense going, damn, every 3 plays, they back on the field.
Yeah. Well, Leroy, you're going to be upset this week because the Ravens have the best run defense in the NFL. They have a bad pass defense. Browns haven't been running the ball well the last few weeks. The offensive line's struggling a little bit. I think they're going to throw the ball a ton with Deshaun Watson. Are you going to be miserable watching that?
Nope, because guess what you do?
Yeah.
I don't care how good they are running
I'm telling
the
you,
football.
you can say whatever you want. I bet you there's 60% pass
here.
at least this week.
Browns have Nick Chubb.
Bull.
Agreed.
Bull.
I'm
You told
telling
me
you.
earlier this year, no one can stop him.
I'm telling you
Bull.
what they're going to do.
Bull.
Yeah, go ahead.
Bull.
I'm telling you they're going to throw the ball.
Your identity is running the football. It all starts and ends with running the football. I don't care if you end up throwing it 40 times. I don't care if you throw it 60 times. But guess what? It's going to start with the run. You can't do that to your offensive line. The easiest thing for an offensive line to do is be aggressive and block going downhill. You have to do that. If you don't, if you get too cute, if you try to throw the ball too much, you're going to have the same results you had last week. As simple as that. And guess what? This is who they are.
They tried to run it a
This
ton
is
last
who
week. It
they
didn't work.
are. So,
Hey, Leroy, let me ask you a question.
so what?
Leroy, let me
No, I'm
ask you.
just saying, like, in the long run, you do have Deshaun Watson, and if they're going to win, it's going to be because of the passing game.
Who's-
It's a passing
who's
league
more-
now,
wait.
Leroy.
Who's the most important player on that offense?
Deshaun Watson.
No, he's not.
100% is.
No, he's not. No, he's not.
Browns are you can't win the Super Bowl anymore without a great quarterback.
Wait, I said this in the beginning. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Can San Francisco win the Super Bowl?
No.
Why not?
I think they can.
Why
Okay.
not?
Well, they haven't
Why
yet.
not?
They haven't. Let's
Why
see.
not?
We'll find out. They don't have a good enough
Is
quarterback.
Aaron Rodgers one of the greatest quarterbacks you've ever seen?
Not this year.
No. Bull.
Yeah.
You know where I'm going, and you're trying to avoid the
I'm not.
the inevitable.
Leroy.
You're trying to avoid the inevitable.
Leroy, for
Is
the past. Wait,
Aaron
hold on.
Is Aaron Rodgers one of the
For
greatest
past-
quarterbacks have you
For
ever
the past 10, where are the great running backs that have been winning Super Bowls? It's all been great quarterbacks.
It's not great running back.
Yeah.
It's a great team that runs the football.
Yeah, but they don't. Last year, none of the Final Four teams were good running teams.
Okay.
None of them.
I thought Cincinnati could run it.
They're
Mixon,
fine.
Mixon had a nice year last year.
You know, and can I ask you a question? When you get to
Yeah, you're not
December,
gonna win it being one-dimensional.
Hey, how about this? When
Yeah.
you get to December
Yeah.
and January, and when you look at all them Super Bowls Tom Brady won, every year we've said these words. Tom Brady got the MVP, but it probably should have went to the running back.
Leonard Fournette was the reason they won that championship.
Fact.
Yes.
Leonard Fournette in the playoffs was
Yes.
a man-child down
Yes,
the stretch.
you know
got
why?
there,
You got to run.
and he was a
Whoa.
beast.
You have to understand what running the football means. Running the football means you
I
are
understand,
dominating the
Leroy.
line of scrimmage.
I get it.
You can't do that. Here, let me
Rams
get
didn't
back
run
to
the-
my
but the
point.
Rams didn't run the football
How
last
great
year at
is
all.
Aaron Rodgers? How great is Aaron Rodgers?
He's great. He's a Hall of Famer.
One Super Bowl. How great is Drew Brees?
Yeah.
Leroy, name me a
Even
Hall.
Peyton Manning.
Who's the last Hall of Fame running back? Give me all the great running backs in the league now haven't won any Super Bowls. None of them.
Let's see.
None of them.
We go
No, I don't even think it needs a great
Terrell
running back.
Davis.
Leroy, I don't even
That's-
think it has
that's
to be
30
a great
years
running
ago.
back. It has to be a team
No,
that is able to run the ball.
Yeah.
Right.
No,
that's
the Rams.
that's
the
the
Rams
point
couldn't
I
run the
was-
ball at all last
Look,
year. They were
a
horrible.
great team.
No, they were horrible.
A
running
great
They weren't.
team
the
that
ball. No, they
runs
weren't.
the ball.
They were horrible.
Look it
But
up.
guess what?
I know.
Bull,
I don't
why
need to look
did
it up.
they
I
win?
know they were horrible running the ball. Yeah.
Bull, why did they
couldn't run
win
in
the Super
playoffs.
Bowl?
The Rams
Bull.
won.
Bull, why
The
did
Rams
the Rams
won the
win the
Super Bowl because they had a good defense and a great passing game. They didn't win it because of running. They didn't run it all in the playoffs. They couldn't run the ball.
You ever notice it? We tend to overlook great defense right? They won the Super Bowl because of their defense.
Chiefs
They won the Super Bowl because
No,
Aaron
they
Donald
did.
was on their
that
team.
Was obviously it played a role, but their passing game was phenomenal. Cooper Kupp had a record-breaking season. Matthew Stafford had an MVP caliber season.
Their defense had Jalen Ramsey. Their defense had Aaron
Their
Donald.
defense was good too. Agreed.
And Aaron Donald.
The Chiefs won the Super Bowl with a mediocre defense.
By the way, Aaron Donald is a generational. He might be the best defensive tackle.
I get it. I get it.
Hey,
Fine.
hey,
How
what
did this
about
become
Von-
defense?
what about
you
Von
guys trying
Miller?
to tell me you need to run. Now your argument's defense. I'm telling you.
No. What I'm saying
you
is
just changed the argument.
what? No,
Complimentary.
I didn't change the argument.
The quarterback's
Here's
the most
what I'm
important
saying
player.
to you.
Bottom
You're
line.
making it about quarterback and quarterback only.
I'm not making it about quarterback only. You said who. This all started when you said who is the most important player on the Browns. I didn't say he's the only important player, but if the Browns are going to win a Super Bowl, it's Deshaun Watson. And I love Nick Chubb, and he's great, and he's important, but he's not more important than Deshaun Watson. The Browns were never going to win a Super Bowl with Baker Mayfield, no matter how good Nick Chubb was, because the quarterback wasn't good enough. Now, if you have a great coach and you have a great defense, then you can get away with a quarterback that maybe is good and not elite. But you can't.
What's funny?
Go ahead.
You confuse having a good game with a great quarterback because before, who's a quarterback for the Rams?
Stafford.
Before Stafford went to the Rams, he was considered a looter and a riot.
Right.
A what?
Right.
He was never
you're right.
considered,
A looter
he was
and
never
a riot.
considered like a top 10 quarterback.
No.
He
Right.
By
Rams.
unintelligent people, maybe, but the guy had been an excellent quarterback.
But what did his teams do?
Now all of a sudden, a guy
team
that
sucked
went
around
0-16
him.
all of a sudden is
Okay.
oh my god.
Okay,
Couldn't
what?
What are
they
we
couldn't
doing?
overcome it.
I didn't say the
hey.
quarterback is all that matters. I said it's the most important thing.
I
No,
would
it's not.
agree with that too.
Yes, it
but
is. Of course
I
it
just
is.
think you have to be able to run the ball. You
The
do.
Rams could
And by
not
the way-
run the ball.
By the way, Bull,
Couldn't.
here's
They
the
sucked.
quandary the Browns are in.
Yeah.
Leroy, I'll get your thoughts on this. The Browns have built their offense to be a running offense. Not anymore.
That's why you can always
so
know.
you got an
but-
identity
but
crisis.
And by
Jay,
the way, this whole thing is
I
silly because
think
pretty much
everybody's
every
missing
team
my
is balanced.
point. Everybody's missing my point. This team, if they're going to be successful, they're going to have success throwing the football, but they're never going to be considered a passing team.
Hey,
They're always going to start and finish with Nick Chubb. That's the basis of this offense. So when it gets tough, when it gets to the end of games, when it gets to those pivotal situations, you know what the Browns need to do? Run the football. I'm not saying they're not going to be better because they have Deshaun Watson. I'm not saying that. But every team has a bread and butter. Your bread and butter can't be passing the football. There's too many things that can go wrong. And if you rely on your passing game and your passing game only, eventually it's going to bite you in the ass. You got to have something with 4 minutes left inside the 10 that you have to go to, and that's why Nick Chubb is the most important player.
And Leroy, you was around when this happened. Perfect case scenario. I used to love watching in the AFC Central the Houston Oilers with Warren Moon, Haywood Jeffries, Ernest Givens, all those guys. I was one of the games I saw with my own two eyes was I said, oh my goodness, they about to beat the Bills. They was up 35-7 or
35-3 at halftime.
35-3 at halftime. And you know what? That Lorenzo White little handoff draw ain't going to get it done. They needed to hand the ball to somebody and take these boys out of here. And you know what happened?
And kill the clock.
Kill the clock.
And they went 3 and out,
Guess
3 and
what?
out, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out.
You know why? You know why the run and shoot struggled? Bill Belichick would always say this. You know they didn't have a tight end on the roster?
Wow.
Good Lord.
Think about that.
You're gonna
talking
need
about
one.
Warren Moon and guess what? And Lorenzo White would run for 1,000,000 yards because they were so worried about that pass. Then December would come around.
Yep.
So I get what you're saying, Bull. I understand 100% what you're saying. But for this team goes as Nick Chubb goes, not as Deshaun Watson goes.
I think it's going to change for next year.
And I believe that because I've seen 3 or 4 years of Nick Chubb being the reason why the Browns have been successful or not. And I've also seen Deshaun Watson throw for 5,000 yards and they don't even make the playoffs.
They won 4 games.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, Deshaun Watson's made the playoffs more than Nick Chubb has. So, and he's played less years.
Oh, would he make it twice?
Yeah, Nick, in 3 years.
How many playoff wins does he have?
Okay, I mean,
Well, no,
it's
I
in
mean,
3
but
years.
you-
How many
Wait,
playoff
Has
wins does
Chubb
Nick
made the
Chubb
playoffs
have?
twice?
No,
One.
Nick Chubb's only made the playoff once. He's
Yeah.
1-1 in the playoffs.
Yeah, and Watson's made it twice.
And
Twice.
he's 0-2 in the playoffs.
Yeah. Okay.
No,
I
he
see-
won a
I see what you're
playoff
saying.
game.
Did he win a playoff game?
Yeah, one.
And by the way,
So-
if you take,
And by the way, what does that prove, Jay? What is your
here's
point?
the thing. If you take Nick Chubb, take Nick Chubb off of the Cleveland Browns,
Yeah.
Deshaun Watson had a better offense in a better complementary players than in Houston and won nothing.
A, that's not true. B, what's the point? Who wants to take Nick Chubb out of the offense?
Because
Nobody.
we're saying that he's
Nick Chubb is not more important than Deshaun Watson. Nobody could possibly believe
what
that.
we're saying is, if you
Whoa,
look
whoa,
at it,
whoa.
is
There's no
that
way.
to get Deshaun Watson to the highest level where he wants to go, and the reason he came here was he said, "I like that offense, I like that running game."
Let me make
and
this
it's
easy,
something
guys.
I can do."
Let me make this easy. Give it now. Who's an average running back in the NFL? Who's an average running back? Just a guy, decent back.
Kareem Hunt.
No,
I
he's.
think Najee. I think Najee's an average guy, to be honest.
Would you rather?
Dearness Johnson.
Okay. Would you rather have the? He's not. I'd say Najee's a better example. I think.
Yeah.
But let me just because he's a starter.
Gotta
we
have a
don't know.
starter, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Would you rather have Deshaun Watson, assuming he's back to the player he was, and Najee Harris, or would you rather have Nick Chubb and Baker Mayfield on this team,
Well, no, just use Pittsburgh's quarterback.
or Nick Chubb and Kenny Pickett? What would you rather have?
What's their records?
It's the
Exactly the
same.
same.
They have the worst quarterback and the worst running back. I don't know what your
But
point
it's the
is.
same.
They have
but
the same
same
record.
record as you.
Deshaun Watson's only played 2 games.
Nick Chubb's played all of
Then
them.
why are you making him the most important guy?
Yeah,
I don't understand. How does that prove that how does the Steelers record versus the Browns record
Leroy,
prove?
what would the
Jay,
equivalent-
do you believe Nick Chubb is more important to the Browns than Deshaun Watson?
No, I don't.
So then what are you arguing with me?
But what I'm saying is, here's
Yeah.
what I'm saying. Here's
Yeah.
what I'm saying. And I think this is what Leroy's trying to get to.
yeah.
This team,
Yeah.
as it's been constructed over
Yeah.
the last 5 years offensively, is a team to run the football.
Right.
It just is.
It is.
It's a team. It's a running team.
Because they've had no choice.
That's what they built
let
it
me ask
for.
you-
If you
Boo,
don't draft
boo,
They
Nick
had
Chubb,
no choice. They didn't have a
Boom.
quarterback.
you draft Nick
Boom.
Chubb for a reason.
Every team drafts a running back.
Yeah, but you take Nick Chubb in that spot because in this division, when you play in cold weather games in December
Yeah.
and it travels, you're going to need to run the ball.
Everybody wants to run the ball
Well,
sometimes.
okay, let me ask
Get
you
it.
this.
Yeah,
Let's just
yeah.
cut to the chase. In the last 4 years, as the Browns have constructed their offense, would
Yeah.
you say that they were trying to build a team that is a run team or a pass team?
I'd say they tried to build a team that I don't.
You're
I think
avoiding the question.
No,
You
I'm
know
gonna-
the
can I
answer to that.
answer?
You know the answer.
because explain to me exactly how they built them to be a run team.
They went and got Kareem Hunt in free agency. They drafted Nick
Well,
Chubb
not
in the
this
second
regime.
round.
This regime didn't
But
get
it's
him.
still the pieces of parts.
I said the last 4 years.
So you're
That
basing
does
it on the
include
talent they have at running back and nothing else, right? What
Bull.
else are you basing it
All right,
on?
let's go back to August
Can
when
you-
we were talking
Jedrick-
about what the Browns
Jedrick-
were.
I'm putting a
Jedrick
3-minute
Wills is a
warning on
top
this
10
conversation. There's
Good.
officially a 3-minute
Okay.
time.
We're
going down that
limit.
rabbit hole.
But now that they actually have an NFL quarterback,
Good job.
they haven't had an NFL quarterback. Now they do. So now they're going to transition to becoming more of a passing team.
Right. So the
Right.
problem with that, and I think this is what
And
Leroy's
every team in
saying,
the NFL passes more than they runs, except for 2 or 3 teams.
I get that.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, when we were talking about this team's strength in August, what are
Yeah.
we going to be? What are we going to do? We're going to be a run team.
That's
Run
because
team. You got Nick
we knew-
Chubb. You got the best running back.
Because we knew Deshaun Watson wasn't going to
Hey.
play.
At one point, you had said you can't
Yeah.
stop Nick Chubb.
You
Can't stop him, no matter what you do.
Nobody can consistently stop him.
We've seen
Yeah.
him stop 3 of the last 4 games
Yeah.
pretty consistently.
Yeah.
You can scheme against what Nick Chubb does. You can.
So now you're on my side. I don't understand.
Well, I'm not on anybody's side. You think
So
that I'm saying trying to
what is
argue
the
your
point?
point?
I don't
What
know.
I'm saying
Yeah.
is, and this is, I think, Leroy, this is where we can find common ground and wrap
Yeah.
it up. I think in today's NFL, if you go in and you say, we're going to run it, that's what we're going to do, we're going to run it, we're going to be a run team. At some point, you're going to need to throw it, and it's not going to work being
Correct.
one.
Yeah.
If you say, we're going to throw it, we got Deshaun Watson now. To hell with our all-pro running back who could get 2,000 yards a season if we wanted.
Yeah.
To hell with him. Now we're going to sling it all over, even though
Right.
we're not constructed that
Okay.
way. Now we're going to pass it because that's how you win in the NFL.
Hey,
You're
So
not
my-
going to win.
My response to that would be, in general, nobody really does that. And so I don't think that's really an issue. However, 2 of the last 3 Super Bowl winners, the Chiefs and the Rams, did not run the ball at all, basically, in the playoffs, and had no running game to speak of. So
I thought the Chiefs ran the ball.
Chiefs ran the ball
Rams did
well.
not.
no, they didn't.
I thought the Chiefs ran the ball.
Edwards-Helaire? Yeah, they did.
Chiefs ran the ball.
Yeah, they did.
Edwards-Helaire sucks. He just got benched.
I don't even
think he was on that
the common
team when they
ground
won the
as we
Super
wrap
Bowl.
it up is you got to do both. You've got to
But
do both.
who's arguing against that?
And to Leroy's point, and this is where I agree with Leroy.
You got to have a foundation.
And this is the
You got
old
to have a
adage.
foundation.
What sets up the pass?
The run.
You do what
The run.
to set up
The run.
You
The run.
establish the run.
The run.
So to
Especially,
Leroy's point,
Bull,
you better come
especially
out
when-
tomorrow and you better establish that you can run the football. That will help your passing game. Always does.
Bull. The other thing is that, you know what? Sometimes it's the other guys on your team also. You don't have Randy Moss. You don't have Jamar Chase. You don't have guys blowing the top off of the defense that could catch. Let me say that. So you got to do things accordingly. You got to create space for, Coop and for DPJ. You got to create space for them. How do you create space? You create space by getting the eyes of the defense in the wrong place. So if they running the football, if you play action, if you do that, if you run the football, you can do play action. If you just drop back and pass it, now you're saying to your receivers, go get open.
Yeah.
Are they those type of receivers?
I hear you, Leroy.
So you got to play complementary
For the record, I
football.
never said they shouldn't be balanced or they shouldn't run the ball.
Right.
All I said was Deshaun Watson is the most important player on the team. That doesn't mean they shouldn't be balanced.
They've won without Deshaun Watson. They haven't won without Nick Chubb.
They haven't won games that mattered without Deshaun Watson.
Oh, okay.
I mean, they won 1 playoff game in 20 years.
Leroy, we got to let you
a
go.
fact.
We're going to do pre-written headlines, but enjoy the game tomorrow. We'll see you next week, right? You're on
Yep.
next week, right? All right. We'll wish you a
Yep.
happy holidays.
I
and
see
Merry
you New
Christmas
Year's
then.
Eve.